happy Wednesday. Today is a very monumental day. It is November, whatever date it is today, November 16th, I believe. And this is our very last Corona Chamber business briefing that will be on Zoom on a regular basis. And I just wanted to take a moment and share with you why we're looking at doing the change. Starting December 14th, and you'll mark it on your calendar and you'll see a slide much later. We will be doing, right now you'll see that slide. So we will have a meeting at Sizzler Restaurant with featured guest speakers. And of course, Jeff Miller will be our chair. And we have, that's a wrong slide, by the way. We need to make sure going forward, it will say vice mayor right now. We're hoping that he will be mayor in December. My apologies. But the Vice Mayor, Tony Daddario, will be our featured speaker to share some of his vision of what he's looking at doing. We will also have the incredible Jeff Gibson, who is our legislative advocate, to be able to give us the snapshot that he does every week. He'll condense it down and expand. So condense down on time frame of talking with each person or on each subject matter, but to cover as many things as possible. We're planning an hour and a half gathering, so 11:30 to 1 o'clock at the Sizzler on December 14th. And it is going to be a sponsored event, so you all can attend this, but we do ask you to pre-register with us. In addition, this is a member benefit only. So what we're looking for is only members. If you are currently on the call and you're not a current member, please connect with us and we will be able to assist you in that arena. So my name is Bobby Spiegel. I'm the president and CEO for the Corona Chamber. And we're very excited to be able to share with you some information and late breaking news on things such as the election and results and votes and newfound ballots. It's this is California, so the land of opportunity. And I am excited to be able to introduce our chair for our advocacy. He's a dear friend of mine. I've known him for darn near, I don't know how old your daughter is now, but she was 2 when I first engaged with you guys. And so it's got to be 30 plus years. 32. Jeff is a former state assembly member. He was elected and served our business community with pride and integrity. What we found out, what was unusual, and it's even worse today, is many of the elected officials have never owned or run a business. So they don't understand what you go through on a daily basis, on all the different challenges, making sure that you have money to pay for the electric bill or for the insurance policies, or what happens when an employee calls out sick. And how do you manage, how do you function, how do you continue to make your widget or sell your product or provide your service? Many of the elected officials don't have that knowledge. Jeff Miller does have that knowledge. He runs a very successful insurance company, and he has been doing that for a number of years, while he's also done his, I'm going to say, charitable political things that he's done, including the state assembly. Prior to that, he was our mayor in the city of Corona, as well as on the city council. And he's been able to talk common sense with the elected officials and even people maybe on the opposite side of what he was looking at or what party he was part of. He was able to have conversations, discussions, and they came to common sense barriers to where they, not barriers, but common sense agreement, breaking down any of the barriers. We're very fortunate to have him here as our chair. Please welcome Jeff Miller.
Thank you, Bobby. For the record, it's been 32 years, but that does not include the family relationship that goes way back to
further back with Sam and yeah, okay,
and
with my brother and your sister-in-law
and your mom and my in-laws and
yes
and all that. So
thank you.
We have a long history. Okay, so here we are, post-election business briefing. Super excited, as Bobby mentioned. This will be our last formal Zoom meeting. We've decided to move them to the Sizzler, provide some lunch for some folks, and get some regular attendees from the legislators' offices. As we've pointed out in the past, we had an assembly person, we had a senator, and we had a congressional person. We're now going to have 3 more. We're going to have 2 assembly members, 2 senators, 2 congressional members. We're going to have new council members, existing council members, and part of our efforts going forward will be to have a featured speaker, a guest speaker, whether it be an elected official that is not part of the official Good Morning Corona, or some high-level staff members that will provide some important insights to the business community that's related to legislation and advocacy. So we're super excited about the future in next year. And I don't think I've been voted in as chair for LAC next year. Have I been, Bobby?
Yeah, you missed that meeting, sir. So
Yeah,
you're in.
I tried.
So-
Okay, so I guess I'm doing it. Okay. All right, so that's enough of me. Let's get right into it. Thank you. Let me announce today's sponsor. Our business briefing is sponsored by Express Employment Professionals. Every day, they help job seekers find work and help businesses find qualified employees. Express annually employs over 526,000 people across more than 830 franchise locations worldwide. They have an underlying passion to help people build better lives for themselves, their families, and their communities. Thank you, Express Employment Professionals, for sponsoring this meeting. And with that, there's a little chat button on the bottom. If you have any questions, feel free to write in, and for myself or Anthony, and we'll get those questions answered. And before we get into the updates from Anthony, I'd like to ask our chair of the board, who's winding down her term, luckily, happily, to say a few words.
Thank you. I was like, luckily for the chamber, right, Jeff? Thank you so much. And thank you so much for those kind words about Express Employment Professionals. I love my business. I love the fact that we're able to help people change their lives through their own hard work and endeavors most of the time. It's really interesting that Bobby talked about how long he's known you, Jeff, and about relationships, because that was my little theme. And it's a bit woo-woo, but that's what I had written down to talk about this morning, because we just had a meeting with our franchise developer yesterday, our regional owners, and most people are beginning to see a slight drop in business. Obviously, what I'm seeing is cut back in overtime, cautiousness, not for everybody, for some. And I was asked to speak about surviving a recession, and had done, obviously, 2008 and 2009. And my theme really is to say that relationships are the key to surviving. It's like the 3 R's, right? If there's going to be a recession, the chamber can help with your relationships and resources. So I know that during that last recession, I didn't know as many people in town, certainly didn't have the long-standing relationships with clients that I have now. And I know that the resources that we help connect our members with will stand them in good stead to outlast and outperform any changes in the market. And that's really the key thing, is that we bring to the table as an organization. It's our reason for existing. And this committee is a fundamental support, and really is the crux of why we've existed for 112 years, I think going into 113. So thank you so much. So nurture your relationships, come to our events. We're one of the chambers that, as under Bobby's leadership, we continued to have face-to-face meetings. Zoom is okay to an extent, but it doesn't let you feel somebody's energy and build a relationship with them in the same way that a face-to-face meeting does. So let's rely on each other to get us through not only the challenges of operating in California, but whatever the global economy is going to bring in the next 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul Bender. Thank you also for your sponsorship of today's meeting. With that, I'll get into announcements and hand it over to Anthony.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Two quick announcements today. The first one is our Coffee with an Entrepreneur. Our December 1st Coffee with an Entrepreneur, featuring the owners and founders of Happiest Hours, Ryan, Alana, and CJ. They started out with just an idea, and that idea grew into a mobile bartending service, which grew even further this past year into Corona's newest wine and spirit shop. They are really incredible entrepreneurs, and they even presented at our Innovation Month. They came in second place, and we are just really, really happy for them and are really thrilled to be able to hear more of their story in 2 weeks. So visit the link in the chat if you want to learn more or to register. The next event that I want to mention is our January 26th, 112th Annual Installation and Awards Gala. We will be honoring our local businesses and some amazing individuals, as well as installing our board of directors for 2023. This is going to be a formal event, but it is open to all. So be sure to register, because it is really going to be a night to remember. So with that said, back to you, Jeff.
All right. Thank you, Anthony. I'd like to introduce Jeff Gibson, our legislative consultant. For 35 plus years, Jeff has specialized in areas of political campaigns and government affairs and government relations. He has specialized also in areas relating to transportation, housing, education, environmental issues, just to name a few. And with that, assuming he's ready, I am going to hand it over to Jeff Gibson. Okay.
Jeff, you are on mute.
There we go.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good
Let me try
morning.
and get
Thank
this
you.
Morning.
rolling here. All right, so on to the 2023 draft legislative platform. We would be discussing the elections. The registrar has announced that they have received and or found 67,000 new additional ballots as of today, and that they may be receiving substantially more. They have reported for the last 3 days that they had 111,000 ballots left to count. So there's a substantial number of ballots still left to count. So we are still up in the air on a number of different races. So when those become clear, we will report them to you. In the meantime, November is the time that we start to look at our draft legislative platform for the new year. The legislature has its first day of session on December 5th, where it will choose Anthony Rendon once more as the speaker. The Assembly Democrat Caucus got together on November 10th to decide who would represent them as speaker. And for those that kind of don't understand, or don't have a clear understanding of exactly how important the speaker of a lower house in the legislature is, the speaker essentially determines all of the rules in the lower house. So a speaker of the house is much more powerful than a Senate majority leader would be, for instance. A Senate majority leader is no more than an equal amongst each of the members. A speaker assigns literally every committee chairmanship, every committee membership, and can track each bill So nothing really happens in a legislature if a speaker decides that they don't want that to happen. So it was very important. It went between two members, Anthony Rendon and Robert Rivas. Robert Rivas, this is his second challenge to this speaker. He was defeated again. It was announced that he will not challenge him again until July, in which they have already announced that they pretty much will challenge each other in July. Anybody want to guess how those speakership battles go when someone controls $1 trillion purse and someone doesn't? So in any case, that said, let's go into the draft legislative platform. Looking at the challenges, many of you already know, this is the draft. We will vote on it in person in December. This platform will then be distributed to each of the members that we do work with. The 6 members, Congressmember Young Kim, who will represent part of the western part of town. We'll have 2 members of the Assembly, 2 members of the State Senate, and an additional member of Congress. At this point, Ken Calvert is ahead, and there are several different organizations that have declared him the winner, but that has not been declared yet. So we're just trying to play by the rules as they give them to us. But in any case, the introduction, each of you are feeling it. We've talked about this. We've taken this message to Sacramento. We've taken this message to Washington, D.C. for quite some time. The employers in Corona face dire challenges, some of the worst economic conditions in the last 40 years. Highest inflation rate in the country as measured by the Department of Labor. Highest taxation rate in the country in several categories as measured by the federal and state government. One of the toughest employment markets nationally, starting in January. You're essentially going to get, for most restaurant work, a $22 minimum wage in restaurants that will ripple through labor markets. The legislature made that determination when they passed the bill. You're looking at 50% of employers, as we discussed last week, are looking at battling inflation within their own operations by cutting jobs in the next 12 months. Over $2 billion was lost last year by employers in wage dispute lawsuits, which can now be brought by in what are known as private attorney general actions. So you don't even have to be an employee to bring a lawsuit against an employer. If you think for some reason that someone you know was not paid appropriately. Most of these lawsuits are based upon accidents that have happened within HR departments, where someone was paid for a lunch one time or multiple times, and then sued once leaving the company for not being paid for every single lunch. It's extremely expensive, and it's growing rapidly. And we are trying to get the legislature and regulators to do something about these lawsuits, because while there are very specific cases of abuse, there are also a lot of nonsense lawsuits that are padding billings for law firms. And then finally, we've done a huge amount of work on this last year. The Assembly Majority Leader has already indicated that she's going to bring back the bill that would eliminate about 50% of the smart manufacturing and logistics businesses in Corona and regionally. And so those are kind of our introductory headlines in this draft. A lot of this material we have been talking about for years. A lot of this material we have made substantial progress on for years. And but as you know, you're employing people every day. There is more work to be done. And so that's basically what we're trying to get together here on. Any questions?
There are no questions at the moment.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Our purpose is to grow together. And we have routinely adopted a standard that the state of California should not look at further tax increases or further regulatory increases until the level of employment and exceeds where it was at the beginning of the last recession. The last recession for us started in March of 2020, as all of us remember. And so we have not recovered our employment, the size of our employment market, the level of our employment in almost 3 years now. When we were lobbying on this after the previous, and to give you an idea of how long it took us to recover from the Great Recession, from when we adopted this plank years ago, that part of it was from 2009. It took us almost 11 years to recover the actual number of people employed in the state of California that were employed before the Great Recession. So when you hear about job growth in California, when you hear about these things, the actual number of people drawing a paycheck did not recover. It takes a very long time to do that. And one of the reasons specifically for that is because we live in a high cost, high regulatory state. So the flexibility is not there. That's what we're trying to get back for you. So we're looking to create a common sense tax and healthcare, common sense healthcare reform. We're trying to eliminate unnecessary regulation, and we're looking for support in achieving the Corona 2030 plan, which is 1.5 million hours of traffic saved on our roads and 5,000 new jobs. So those are the parts of how we're going to, what our purpose is. And next we'll get into, if there are no questions, get into how we achieve our purpose.
You can continue, Jeff.
All right. So we achieve our purpose in three main ways. We monitor proposals. And I just got a note that Mitch McConnell was reelected as the GOP leader in the U.S. Senate. Kevin McCarthy last night was elected the speaker designate in the House, and but committee chairs and each of those races are yet to be determined. And we will keep you updated as that occurs. So we achieve our purpose by monitoring proposals at the local, regional, state, and national levels. To achieve our main goals, we sit down on a regular basis with leaders elected and appointed. And as we have gotten back to this year with a trip to Sacramento and a trip to Washington, D.C., both of which were very successful. And we try and reach out to them, meet with them, and that on issues that directly affect our three main goals. And we report that out monthly and usually more regularly through this call to the board of directors and business owners like yourself. Any comments or questions?
No comments or questions at this moment, so you can continue.
All right, we're steaming through. So one of our platform focus areas, again this year, is development. The governor has had a plan since 2018 to build 1.8 million housing units. He should be in the 5th year of his announced plan now, and he has built less than California has built approximately 80,000 units. So now that said, the city of Corona is under order from a number of different regulatory agencies and has adopted a housing element for a housing plan. It's called the housing element within the city general plan that accommodates planning. It does not accommodate the units yet. The units are not in process to be built. They need to be, there needs to be a long development process, as anyone here who's spent any time in it knows. for 6,078 affordable units of housing, which is roughly a 12% increase in the total housing within the city. The city was required, and it is required, to take all steps that it can under very specific regulatory steps to produce that housing by 2028. So the city has 5 years. The last time the city developed housing at that level was in the early 2000s. I actually believe it was just before the turn of the century. So it has been quite some time since the city developed 1,000 to 1,500 units a year of any type of housing. And that would be a year. For reference, the Bedford project off of Cajalco, in which a new interchange was required and built before the project began in earnest, is slated for up to 1,600 homes and has about 400 units built currently. So you could see that process in and of itself, with no goading or requirements from the state, took approximately 5 years to negotiate and get underway. So turning around and saying to the city, not that the city is moving slowly, but the city is moving under a number of other regulations, which is one of the reasons why we're trying to eliminate duplicative regulations, because people get caught within them. So in any case, so that's where we are. That basically explains what we've been looking at on development, not just for this year, but for quite some time. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. We do have one question that came in, and that is, do ADUs count as a housing unit?
Yes, they do. But you cannot, within the housing element, count the ADU. You can't plan on ADUs as a major portion of your housing element. So they would have to. And then for an ADU to qualify as an affordable unit, which is what the state is truly interested in, you have to go through some fairly large hoops. So ADUs are not turning out to be the panacea that the state of California, that the legislature thought just 2 years ago, just because it ends up that it's very difficult to develop property no matter where it is, even if it's in your own backyard. So, but very good question. Thank you for asking. So the next area is transportation infrastructure and energy. We've had a great deal of success on this over the past several years, but we look at transportation and the infrastructure to deliver it and the energy required to make that happen as being what is known as multimodal. So whether it's by automobile, by transit, by bicycle, and other active transportation modes, we have worked actively with transportation leaders across the country to work to get practical projects qualified for the funding and legislation they need to be built as soon as possible. Occasionally that means that we do things that on a practical basis we know aren't going to be widely adopted, as in a bicycle plan for people that are interested in commuting into Orange County. But we did have meetings on that specifically because that was a requirement of qualifying for federal loans. So but we work with public agencies, nonprofits, just about everybody that you can imagine, in order to help solve the 30-year transportation infrastructure backlog that we have in this region that pre-existed before Bobby took leadership here at the chamber and Jeff Miller was elected to office. We have been able to largely keep up with additional demand for infrastructure and those different pieces, but not not really dig into the backlog. I guess that would, Jeff, that would probably be appropriate to characterize what we face here in the Inland Empire as a generational backlog in the production of key infrastructure that we've been fighting against over.
Yes. Yes, in addition to regulations and permits and things that government imposes on getting these projects built, which last year, this year, you know, we worked with our mayor, Wes Speak, who's on the call, to help kill some bills that were adding additional regulations to building transportation projects. So yes.
Jeff, you are muted.
Jeff, you are on mute.
Ah, that's funny. So the biggest part of the challenge that we are going to be facing on a regular basis going forward is that the timetable for transferring over to a fully renewable energy system would require unprecedented effort. And by unprecedented, the statistic I like to state is it has taken us 120 years to develop the infrastructure to deliver the amount of energy that we enjoy today. We are giving ourselves in this state less than 10 years to produce 170% more energy. So it's never been attempted or tried from this high a standard anywhere in human history. Have you gone from a healthy, fully functioning system and almost tripled the capacity, almost doubled the capacity to almost 200%, because we're taking a significant amount offline. What we've been able to do in California with the $2 trillion investment so far is achieve 48 seconds of in-state renewable, 100% renewable energy on the grid. That would be a 4 followed by an 8. Which constitutes roughly 3/4 of 1 minute. So, I mean, that doesn't seem like a very long period of time, but it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of money coming out of a lot of rate user pockets, including all the people on this line. So we're monitoring that very closely and look forward to working with you on holding the state accountable on the costs and the way that's being accounted for. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. There are no questions.
All right. So finally, our final focus area is on growing great jobs. And there's 4 pieces of this puzzle: business attraction and retention, cost of doing business, education and outreach, and workforce issues. And I'll just take one to highlight precisely how these are laid out. So working on continuing to attract career building jobs here in the Inland Empire. Some of those great careers are tied to the demand the military has for local high-tech solutions. We have some great military installations in and around Riverside County, especially Corona Nav-C, that create thousands of good paying jobs. And so we are always going to be back in Washington, D.C. lobbying to keep those military installations open. Cost of doing business gets right back into your ability to manage your operations directly with your employees as fairly and as efficiently as possible with the lowest possible cost. We all realize that we live in California. We all realize that it's 2022, about to become 2023. We want to make sure that we have the opportunity to employ as many people as possible, especially going into this recession. And cutting those unnecessary costs are very, very important. We work so under education and outreach, we work extremely hard to work with our members of every political stripe, work with our leaders of every political stripe and our members of every background to develop this platform and represent their interests and the greater interests of our community in helping people build careers. And then finally, workforce issues. That's a big support for extended learning. We've spent a substantial amount of time this year on supporting RCCD programs. That's the community college district programs in printing and elsewhere because of member generated requests from business owners like yourself. So happy to answer any questions you may have now or before we adopt it.
There are no questions at the moment. Thank you so much, Jeff.
All right. I'm done. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. I know you got to run. You've got other meetings, so I appreciate you working through that. And I do, before we do get off the line, I'd like to ask our mayor to see if he has anything he wants to announce or talk about. And then obviously I'd like to go to Linda to see if there are any updates from Corona Regional Medical Center. Wes, are you available? Say a few
Yes.
words.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Always an opportunity to speak. My normal 10 o'clock meeting got over early, so I was able to join. Not a lot for our council meeting tonight, but however, there are a couple of really interesting, or at least I think fun things. One, we're going to be celebrating a bunch of employee recognitions for folks that have been with the city for 20, 25, and 35 years. Pretty exciting. And then probably the most exciting part, the 100-year anniversary of the Corona Rotary Club. So we'll be celebrating that tonight as well. And not much else on the agenda, but I did want to kind of add on to some of the things that Jeff said about transportation. It is going to be a supreme challenge. The state has put a lot of roadblocks in our way. One is vehicle miles traveled. And we've been trying to push, and I've been trying to push, and the chamber's been trying to push to get a way to when we hire people locally to mitigate, to use that as a mitigation bank, to be able to bank some vehicle miles traveled to get much needed improvements. I've been pushing at the state level, the governor's office for planning and research. I think I've gotten a little bit of traction. The draft mitigation strategy is supposed to come out early next year, and I'm really hoping to see some kind of mitigation strategy or mitigation plan where folks can bank things, because I think it's going to be really important. We finally, after sending tons of emails and almost verbally assaulting the new chairman of CalSTRA, which is California Transportation Agency, and the new Caltrans lead, Taksim Ashokan, he finally admitted at the last Mobility 21 meeting that yes, the regions are different. We can't treat Riverside County like LA, can't treat San Bernardino County like San Francisco. So I hope that translates into some different laws, because right now the rules are that you will not see any substantial improvements to any of our freeway systems, anything over a mile. Right now, the VMT rules for Caltrans preclude that. And also there's a governor's order in 1919 that directs that all investment in transportation must have a greenhouse gas component to it. So those two things alone, and one of the reasons why you see the improvement that we pushed really hard from the city of Corona, including our own public works director, designed the extension, the auxiliary lane from, at least the temporary auxiliary lane from Cajalco to Wyrick. It still has that lane drop underneath the freeway, which maddens people. And there's no other reason for it than that Caltrans rules preclude any auxiliary lane longer than a mile. And when you get to the bridge there, it's 1.1 miles. So we're literally a few 100 yards short of being able to change people's lives. And I put it that way to a bunch of different, different folks, and we're working on some workarounds, and including the, kind of using it as a nice poke at our governor when he mentioned that he wanted to add a 5-mile long auxiliary lane just outside of Vegas to ensure that we wouldn't have the backups that come back into the state from Las Vegas. And those little jabs that we made at the state level were actually got back to the governor, and his plan was shelved. And so we're hoping that maybe that little experience will allow some change and some common sense additions to our transportation network to really to change people's lives, and to add in a goods movement. So it's going to be an interesting year, I think, with the governor's reelection and a lot of the changes that we're seeing at the state level. And I'm hoping that we can get some change. The city is going to take an offensive footing, and we're actually going to be sponsoring legislation. We're going to be working on our ledge platform here in the next month or so. So hopefully we can devose it or put it out to this group here for their opinions on it. And I think it matches very well with what the chamber has put forward. And thank you again for all your advocacy and support for not just the businesses, but for the city as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. Anthony, any questions for the mayor?
No questions have came in.
All right, thank you for that update, Wes. I feel your pain dealing with Caltrans and all these government agencies. I did it for many years, and it's not a pretty process. I'll just leave it at that. For the folks on the call, just to let you know, in addition to what Wes does for our city, he is our representative on the Riverside County Transportation Commission. So, Wes, when you need our help, when you need us to get behind something, we're here, and please ask, and we'll
Yes,
be there
sir.
for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. Linda Pearson. Hi,
Hey,
Linda.
good morning, everybody. I just want to jump in and say thank you to Wes. I think he's done an incredible job of communicating with us his entire term. And I think, Wes, you've been one of the best mayors we've ever had, because I feel so informed. And I just want to say thank you. I know your term is short term now. But anyway, thank you so much for that. And then before I talk about the hospital, just a reminder that Main Street entrance or exit off the freeway is closed this week. And it certainly has impacted our staff here. And I know it has impacted some people trying to get to the hospital. So just a reminder that the westbound off-ramp is closed this week. And then about the hospital, COVID's kind of a non-issue. We're happy about that. But what we're seeing is this new respiratory RSV, and adults and a lot of children. So just be cautious, especially with winds today. Our ER the past 2 days has been crazy, just full, and our beds are all full. And we just want people to be healthy for the holidays, but certainly there's a lot of lung and respiratory disease out there. So get your flu shot. Don't forget to get your flu shot. You definitely need that. And that's about it.
Great. Thank you, Linda. Does anybody know when that ramp is going to be open?
They're hoping by the weekend.
By the weekend. So next week it'll be hopefully
Open.
operational. Yeah. It's been for me personally, it's just been a disaster, but
Yeah, it's supposed to be open the morning of the 21st, Jeff.
okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
It's been a really it's a problem, a settlement problem. I think that the designer of the interchange there really missed the mark. In fact, RCTC sued and lost. They underestimated the amount of settlement that would happen under the freeway. I I think from 1960 to 2000, they had a total of 3.5 feet of settlement. And then from 2017 to 2021, there was 4 feet of settlement.
Wow.
So they've had to do a bunch of drilling and grouting and going down to bedrock, and very complicated project, but much needed for some safety reasons there. So we appreciate everybody's patience.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. It needs to be fixed for sure. Okay, well, let's wrap things up. I know everybody's got to get back to their work and their businesses.
Hey,
And,
Jeff, before you do, I
yeah.
want Anthony to pop up. There you go. So he's great. He corrected the flyer so that until December 7th, it's the vice mayor, but this is, we want to remind everyone, if you want to go to that, I'm going to send out a calendar invite. If you'll reply back, that's good enough for us. But it'll be December 14th at 11:30 at the Sizzler. Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
And really just to highlight that, Bobby, if the more people we can get involved, when legislation comes our way, or when Wes needs our help on a bill, we will have more resources to oppose or support those particular items. So I'm really looking forward to our in-person meetings. This has been a great drill or time doing this on Zoom, and but it's time to change, and we're ready to take it to the next level. If you have any questions of our existing current state legislators, Assembly members Sabrina Cervantes and Senator Richard Roth, I think Anthony has a slide with their contact information. If there it is. Thank you, Anthony. And with that, I will adjourn our last official Zoom meeting unless anybody has anything they would like to throw out.
Real quick,
Last minute.
pop up the sponsor slide real quick because I cut that off. There you go.
Oh, that's right. Thank you
So
again
it's
to Paul.
Elizabeth Hayden. I joined late and I apologize. I just want to remind folks that the Riverside Registrar needs observers for signature matching. If you have 4 hours, please sign up and go, because we want to ensure that our signatures for our candidates are approved versus someone who's never seen my signature making a determination. So if you can send your volunteer team, staff for a couple hours, yourself, greatly appreciated.
Great point, Liz. Thank you very much. With that, I will adjourn our meeting. I hope everybody has a happy and fruitful Thanksgiving with their families. There's so many people in our community that are struggling right now. It sure is a blessing to be able to sit down with our families and spend Thanksgiving together. So with that, I'll adjourn our meeting. No, we're not meeting next week. Our next meeting officially. And I want to thank Paul Bender again and her company for their sponsorship of today's business briefing, Express Employment Professionals. What's your website, Paul Bender?
expresspros.com/Riverside/Corona/California. And Jeff, can I just say, I know we're going to continue these meetings in person. Yay. How lucky and privileged we are and blessed at this time of Thanksgiving for you, Jeff Miller, that you serve us all. You continue your service by helping us in this difficult state. So thank you. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. So does that mean you want me to do it again next year?
Yes. And
Oh.
I single-handedly voted you in. No.
That's all. Okay, that's all that
I vote
matters.
aye.
No.
That's all that matters.
That's
Thank
how
you, Paul
that's
Bender.
the British do it, Jeff.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take
So
it.
look, no one said no, no one's hand is raised at the pictures. So we're good, Jeff, you're in.
I keep trying, but it's just, I fail. So just want to thank a couple folks on the call. Again, our mayor, Wes Speak, thank you again for your time today. former mayor, former council member, Jason Scott. Thank you, Jason. Got a couple things in chat here. Jason, Karen and I did go over to the registrar of voters to observe. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jason. That's great. All right, folks, see you on December 14th. Happy Thanksgiving. Be
Thank you,
safe.
Jeff.
Be
Thank you.
safe.
Bye-bye.